Hi everyone. Thank you for enrolling in SOCI 1010, Section W02, Introduction to Sociology. I'm your instructor. As soon as you possibly can, access the course syllabus. You can do that by going on to Momentum D2L and clicking on to the title of the course, SOCI 1010, Section W02. Once you have in hand a copy of the syllabus, read it literally from cover to cover. Think of it as a sort of contract between you and me. Furthermore, you will find within it a lot of valuable information as to the focus, orientation, and content of the course, including the grading and evaluation system, and you will also find the title of the textbook. This is the book that we will be using, Essentials of Sociology, a Down-to-Earth Approach by James Henslin, and you want to look for the 12th edition. Something else that will ensure success in this particular course. Pay attention to information that you will find on page 4 in the syllabus. Noted there near the top is information with respect to what research studies indicate help to ensure maximum student success in an online or web class. I hope you will refer to these points frequently during the course of the semester. They're very, very valuable. Likewise, I want to encourage you to complete all reading assignments associated with each study unit. Read the associated chapters that are associated with each unit before you view the affiliated or the associated video lesson or lessons. And as you read, make yourself read actively. Now, I know all of you know how to read, but I often had a problem as an undergraduate of reading material in a text, and then once finished, I was clueless as to what I'd read. I realize now, looking back at it, I wasn't reading for retention. I wasn't reading for understanding, and that's what I mean by reading actively. This textbook, like most college textbooks, is set up in such a way that active reading is facilitated. What I would encourage all of you to do, if you're not doing this, read the summary first. That'll give you an idea of what to expect within the content of the chapter. And if you'll notice, this textbook that we're using this semester, like all college level textbooks, is set up in such a way that you'll have sections, subsections, and sometimes sub-subsections. Once you've read one of those sections, big or large, stop and ask yourself, what did I just read? Now, if you're having difficulty remembering what you read, you're not reading actively. And again, let me emphasize, really study the syllabus. I've discovered that the majority of problems that students have in online classes is they don't actively read the syllabus. Make sure you do that. Furthermore, be willing to commit the necessary time and energy that this particular course is going to require. And for that matter, all online courses will require. You're going to have to establish some sort of a routine. You have to supply, to a great extent, the motivation. You need to set aside a time and a place for studying and viewing the video lessons. That's absolutely important. It's real easy, because I know all of you have very, very active lives, to push things on the back burner, to put them off, to procrastinate. And I'm the world's greatest procrastinator. Very frequently, if you do that, it's going to blow up in your face. So commit the necessary time and energy required. Don't be misled by the myth that's floating around out there and has been out there for a long time that somehow web-based classes or internet-based classes are easier. In certain respects, they're much more demanding because you have to provide, as noted a moment ago, the time and the energy required. Furthermore, I encourage you to utilize all of the resources you have at hand that are associated with this course. The text, 3 study guides, 3 review guides, and the video lessons. Now, if you will go to page 6 in the syllabus, you will note again, and this is really laid out in other areas of the syllabus as well, specifics as to what is going to be included on the major course exams. There are going to be 3, and read through the syllabus so you have an understanding of what's going to be included on each one. And you'll notice it's going to be a combination of materials from textbook reading assignments and from video lessons. I would also encourage you very strongly, don't just memorize as you prepare for the exams. I know memorization works, and if it has worked for you, stick with it. But I'm going to encourage you to take an extra step. Work on making the course information real. Specifically, what I'm asking you to do is to relate to the information. Don't just strictly memorize a concept, a term, but think of examples or illustrations. Apply these concepts, notions, and ideas to what you have witnessed, what you have experienced. The more you can do that, the easier the material is going to be from the standpoint of understanding. You're going to do much better on exams. And I'll be honest with you, some of the questions on the exam are going to ask more of you than simple recall. That's what I had a lot of on high school exams. Simple illustration. A multiple choice question consisted of a concept, and then you had 4 to 5 definitions. So you had to pick the definition that went with the concept. Those are easy. You can memorize your way through those. But I want you to take this extra step. Really relate the information. If you have difficulty relating it to some events or circumstances in your life, what about your family? What about your friends? Furthermore, can you relate some of these concepts to scenes you've witnessed in a movie or a TV program? Are there news stories that you have, again, studied, analyzed, maybe watched on the evening news? Look for links between what you see in that news event and what we've discussed or analyzed in class. I've even had some students come and tell me that, well, you know, I was really listening carefully to the lyrics of my favorite song, and I realized, gee whiz, this relates to something we've been talking about or analyzing in my Introduction to Sociology course. I've also had some students highlight the fact that novels that they've read or comics that they've read will again have components or elements that relate to the class. The quicker you can relate this information, it's not only going to make it easier for you to understand the concepts, but you're going to walk away with a genuine appreciation of sociology. Last but not least, if you want to do well in this class, from the get-go, employ what C. Wright Mills called the sociological imagination. It's highlighted in textbook chapter 1, also in study guide 1, and in video lesson 1.1. It really refers to a different way of seeing what we take for granted, what we have come to believe is familiar. In a way, it's asking us to see the strange in the familiar. So what does it involve exactly? Well, look for connections between society in general and individual experience. Let me put that in another way. I want to encourage you to recognize the extent to which our individual lives are significantly shaped by where, when, and to whom we are born, and the range of experiences we've had as a child, later as an adolescent, and still later as an adult. At each of these stages, we are unique and special individuals, but we are also being impacted. We are part of larger social factors or worlds. Specifically, those social factors or those social worlds of which we are a part are related to or linked directly to what are often referred to as social locators, those little social niches that make up our lives, such as our age, our social class membership, our gender, our race, our ethnicity, just to note 5. Our opportunities, our potentials, our choices, specifically the choices available to us and those that are closed to us, they're all influenced by these larger social factors. But we don't often recognize or really appreciate the role they play in our lives. To understand these larger social factors, the impact of these social locators on our lives, we need to think about them sociologically. Let me give you sort of a working illustration. The issue of obesity. Some assume that overweight people have caused their own obesity by being indulgent, by overeating, by under-exercising. In short, there's something wrong with them. They lack the will, the commitment to improve themselves. They're somehow flawed. Sociologists, on the other hand, would point out that social factors contribute to many Americans gaining weight. They would focus on some of the following: the increasing sedentary lifestyles centered on office jobs and leisure activities. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, increasingly, we Americans spend a lot of time sitting in front of computers, in front of televisions. Many of us work in offices where we're stationary, we're sedentary, we don't move around a great deal, as compared to our ancestors who were hunting and gathering and then later plowing, cultivating fields, and the like. Sociologists would also highlight the fact that obesity is linked to the rise of the fast food industry and to increasing proportions of processed foods in the American diet. They would also highlight the link between obesity and the growth of suburbs, as well as our increasing reliance over the last 100 plus years on cars to get around rather than walking. So rather than exclusively blaming individuals for obesity, sociologists are going to again focus on what larger social factors can contribute to this situation or circumstance. Sort of like a young high school girl who comes to believe she's overweight and she begins to systematically starve herself. Anorexia nervosa. Is this strictly a personal problem? Well, maybe, because this person decides to do this, but could the decision to do this be influenced by larger social factors? particularly a society that glamorizes and glorifies thinness in women. Learn to employ the sociological imagination. Go beyond individual explanations and recognize larger social factors are involved as well. Now, my reason for stressing the sociological imagination so strongly is I want you to be successful in this course. I want you, though, to take more than just 3 hours of credit and a grade away from the class. Because look at it this way, folks. After you graduate from college, you may never again complete a complex algebraic equation. You may never again debate the contents of a poem written by Gwendolyn Brooks, Edgar Allan Poe, or Emily Dickinson. You may never again analyze the ins and outs of a classic piece of writing like Walden by Henry David Thoreau. You may never again spend a lot of time concerned with human taxonomy. You know, how many times you're going to be called upon to classify human beings as biological organisms. You may never again discuss or analyze events and circumstances that led to some great historical event like a world war or the Great Depression. But I can tell you something you will be doing the rest of your life, and that is interacting with people. That's what this course is all about. So please let me know if you have any concerns, questions. I will address those as quickly as I possibly can. I want to mention the fact that some of you may be disturbed by the requirement that you have to come to one of the testing centers to complete the course exams. This is standard procedure around the United States. Many other instructors at Roane State require their students to come to the testing centers. And again, I realize that's an inconvenience, but you're only going to have to do it 3 times during the course of the semester. Please let me know if you have any questions. And again, thank you for enrolling in the course. I hope it proves to be an exciting and challenging learning experience.